everyone, and welcome to the Total Education Show, the Total Education Hour. I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. Please go to my website at www.totaltutor.org, and you can find more information on the Total Education Network. I cannot believe how much we're growing and growing each and every day. The show is fantastic. And remember, the number is 412-621-9728. I'm an owner of a birth through college tutoring consulting company, but I want to introduce, first of all, my co-host, Jarrett, my developmental therapist, behavior specialist. Thanks for coming to the program today.
Glad to be here, Neil. I had a great drive in here to the studio, and I'm looking forward to what our guests have to add to our show today.
All right, well, fantastic. And I always have to introduce first a great author, great teacher, Dr. Shelley Hipsky, author of Mentoring Magic, and also professor at Robert Morris University. Thanks for coming to the studio today.
Lovely to be here. Thank you so much, Neil.
And I understand you have somebody that is a phenomenal anti-bullying expert that you brought to the program. And can you introduce her for me, please?
Absolutely. I would love to. This is Dr. Shannon Scheiderle, and we'll be calling her Dr. Shannon today. And I'm bringing her. She was actually one of my students in the doctoral program at Robert Morris University. And now I'm proud to call her doctor. She is here. She's a guidance counselor at Black Hawk, and she is going to give us some practical tips for parents and teachers today.
Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate
practical
it.
tips,
Yes.
that's something that we all can use.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, so basically the first question I have to ask is, we used to think of bullying as being the big mean kid who took money on the playground. I mean, that's, again, a connotation we talked about 20 years ago. How has the definition changed to include relational bullying?
Well, for something to be considered bullying, it has to possess three characteristics. Number one, it has to be unwanted behavior that is repeated over time, and a power imbalance exists in it. So that takes into account relational bullying, which can be things like it's behavior that's intended to harm someone by damaging or manipulating their relationships with others, their reputation. So the definition of bullying has really expanded to include things such as exclusion from groups, spreading rumors, and making critical remarks about someone.
Absolutely. And, when I think about relational bullying, I think back to my own days.
Yes.
Back when I was in elementary school, and I was telling Dr. Shannon earlier that I got bullied really bad. And it was because I'm going to date myself here. I had a Pat Benatar haircut, and I was in elementary school, and these huge glasses that were really thick, and they had this song and dance about me, and they would talk about fly head with moon goggles. And I remember thinking, like, when I would go into the elementary school classroom, that I knew they were going to do it, and I knew they were going to do it. And then I remember going from 4th grade to 5th grade, and we had that whole summer break, and I'm thinking, oh, they're done. They'll never fly head and moon goggle me again. And I walked in on the first day with my hair held down, and I was ready to go. And there they did. They did the song and dance again, and it broke my heart. And I was like, oh, I can't stop this bullying. What in the world should I have done, or what should have happened to make the fly head and moon goggles go away, Dr. Shannon?
Well, first off, it's important to always talk to an adult.
Okay.
About what is happening.
Okay.
A lot of times, students will assume that an adult or a teacher knows exactly what's going on, but we know that bullying is not meant for adult consumption. So, a lot of times, a teacher may not be aware that something is going on. So the student, should tell somebody about it, and then the teacher or the adults in the building, need to intervene.
Right.
And let the bully know that the behavior is not acceptable and will not be tolerated.
Absolutely.
And they should enforce consequences for the behavior as well.
Good. That would have helped.
And, that's, Dr. Shelley, that's a very interesting point that you brought up, too, about you went home for the summer,
Yeah.
didn't have the bullying, and when you came back to school the next year, it was still there. With how Facebook has taken off, and Twitter,
yes,
and all of those
absolutely.
things, the bullying never stops.
Yeah.
It used to be that you'd walk out of school and the bullying behavior would be over, but not anymore with the new technology that we have. it can just continue and continue 24 hours a day.
Absolutely. And the research shows that boys typically they're bullied maybe for a week, but then girls it goes on for years.
Right.
And it can drag on. It can be very catty, and like you said, it's not for adult consumption, so it's kind of going on in the back of the classroom or the back of the playground, and that's trickier to kind of catch and take care of. So
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to figure out a way to end this. And I had a discussion with Joe the biker that was basically an anti-bullying expert out of Massachusetts, and he's just telling us if we don't educate, there's no way things are going to change. We have to educate parents. We have to educate the teachers. We have to educate students about bullying. And again, I'm seeing a trend where so many people are bullying. It's cool to bully now, and it's not like the days of just the loner bullying.
yeah.
Well, and it sounds like that certainly you've gathered a lot of material on this. Can you tell us a little bit more about the research that you put together on bullying?
Well, I started by just sampling a few colleges and universities in Pennsylvania to find out what they were currently doing with their pre-service teachers. Like, how were they training them to intervene in bullying situations before actually taking over a classroom? And what I found was they were doing things either in a methods class or something like that, but it really wasn't very extensive training. So I did an extensive literature review, and I from that I gathered 6 factors that the research says that pre-service teacher programs, when training on how to intervene in bullying situations, should include in a training. And they were provide current information about what is currently known about bullying. Recognize the importance of increased vigilance to protect students. The teachers play a critical role in protecting students. Intervention strategies for both families of bullies and their victims are needed. Empathy training, recognize verbal and relational bullying and power imbalances. That seemed to be a really weak area for teachers. Like the physical bullying, when you know it, when you see it, you know it. It's
Right.
obvious
Right.
to you.
Exactly.
The
But
bruises and
Right, but relational bullying is so subtle. It can be things as simple as an eye roll and a,
Right,
and a shoulder
exactly.
turn.
especially with those middle school students.
Right.
I really
Yes,
see
yes.
that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And then, just to develop a clear understanding of the problem and the teacher's role in protecting students in situations like that.
So going through this program, there should really be, teachers should come out knowing how to identify the different characteristics. So there should not be the situation that
Yes.
you went through back in elementary school, which was nobody seemed to be aware of it.
Right.
Which my guess is there were probably teachers who were aware of the bullying that was existing within those circumstances, and they may not have even known what to do in
Right.
that. But with this program, teachers should really have an idea of what they can do. So in effect, take charge of the situation.
Right, that was the point of the program, to educate them as to the behaviors, to be able to recognize a behavior when it occurs, and to be able to intervene when it happens, and also to see it as a serious incident and not brush it off that kids will be kids. To take it seriously, because we know that the effects of bullying are terrible on some students. They can lead to things like absenteeism in school.
Oh, yes.
And health issues and depression, suicidal thoughts. Yeah.
Sure. Going back to the old teacher hierarchy of basic needs, one of the things you have to do when you go to school to be healthy is feel safe. And if
Right.
we've eliminated that safety element of it, we're not going to be able to give that child the best opportunity to learn. If it could be the same thing as if they're coming in hungry, but now they're hungry for safety.
Yeah.
So
Great point.
those are important components here. Now there are a number of different bullying programs. When I was a teacher, I know our school had a bullying program. Can you tell us a little bit more about the one that you're studying, the Olweis bullying? And I hope I said that correctly. The Olweis bullying prevention program.
It's the Olweis Bullying
Olweis,
Prevention
okay.
Program. There are several different kinds of bullying prevention programs, but one that is really very popular in Western Pennsylvania is the Olweis Bullying Prevention Program. But I should say that Dr. Olweis' program is the world's most researched bullying prevention program. And basically, it's a school-wide program where everybody is, including your bus drivers, your cafeteria workers, your custodians, everybody is trained
That's
to
great.
recognize bullying and to intervene. So everybody is intervening consistently in bullying situations, which is critical that it be done consistently.
Now, Shannon, again, the issue I have is, again, people reporting this. You do all this training, you teach them all these things, but then are they really going to do it? How can you hold people accountable for this that aren't doing this? And that's the thing. I see a lot of times we train teachers really well on bullying. We go through all these trainings, but then when it happens, they don't want to do it. How are we going to change that? That's because, I mean, we're coming up with all this great research. We're doing all these different things, but it's happening in school still and also online. But how can we, through this training, make sure that someone's held accountable for this, that this is stopped?
I think, again, that we need to continue to raise awareness of it, that adults take students seriously when they report it. Something that also is very important to students is confidentiality. They want to know that that the report is being taken seriously, and that the information will be kept confidential. However, it's important to not keep the bullying a secret. That's the power of the bully, to keep it secret and not tell anybody about what's happening. But when that silence is broken, then more people are willing to stand up and intervene.
Absolutely.
So in other words, eliminate the old school method of the principal bringing in both of the parties together to face off against each other.
That's an excellent point. Well, think about it. If a power imbalance exists, and we used to think that a power imbalance was, big guy versus little guy, but that's not true. It could be a social power of,
yes.
So, and to bring the two together in the same room, the victim is less likely to speak up and to say anything.
Right. Exactly.
I should point out that there's another model of prevention that says that you bring them both together in the same room and kind of let them talk out their issues. So the two models kind of disagree, but it's been my experience that really doesn't.
No, I want to kind of touch upon this real quickly. Okay. I mean, I see this all the time. Let's bring them both together and talk about this and make sure, and then kind of make the bullier, the person being bullied, really more hurt, more upset. Mm-hmm. And especially when they hear the bully lying.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then sometimes the administrator questions the person who's being bullied. Are you really telling the truth? Like the boy who cried wolf. And I don't understand this. I don't understand if you have witnesses, especially if you have witnesses, bystanders, why this is happening. So again, I guess the best thing we have to do is just get that word out. Wouldn't you agree, Jared?
Well, I think as a teacher, if you're not incorporating these programs within your classroom, you're missing a great opportunity to manage your classroom. If you eliminate bullying from your classroom, now suddenly you have a safer classroom.
Yes, exactly.
You have a more respectful classroom. You have a classroom that can cooperate and can really accomplish things as a team and both individual.
I love it.
And so it only makes sense for a teacher to embrace this, because now they can really manage their classroom in a very healthy way. And the teacher doesn't have to come across as being a bully.
Mm-hmm. And what you're talking about is really forming a community within the classroom, which is a beautiful thing, because then if you're truly in a community, then everyone is stepping up to the plate. Everybody's taking care of each other, as opposed to breaking into these cliques and forming these barriers and divides.
Fantastic. Well, Jared, again, we're about to have to take a break, and now we're going to get into more about what parents should do to stop bullying from occurring. Good education, because if you educate the parents, then ultimately what we're going to find out is then things are going to happen. Because if you don't have the parents backing you, a lot of times administrators take a blind eye to this. Again, you're listening to the Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Let's do the shadow dance.
Savings Man here with a story for you about two young spenders named Tommy and Sue. Their parents let them buy whatever they chose, like video games and designer clothes. As they grew older, they spent all their pay on fancy cars, houses, 2 lattes a day. They lived in the moment, never saving a dime. When they tried to retire, they'd run out of time. Working forever is Tom and Sue's fate, so choose to save now before it's too late. Visit our website to find out more, 'cause a happy ending's worth saving for.
Is that thing getting closer? Look how high that thing's going. Look out there. Look at the debris.
Give me the camera.
No, just drive. I've got it.
Zoom in.
I can't believe this is happening.
Oh, what size is that thing?
It's everywhere.
Are you getting this?
Yeah, I've got it. What was that?
It's the National Guard.
How'd they get here so fast?
I don't know.
Pull over. Pull over.
Do you have what it takes to head into the heart of the storm? Check out NationalGuard.com.
The American Legion. We're a powerful force for the nation. We pledge ourselves to our veterans, our youth, a strong national defense, and Americanism. These 4 pillars shape our work and what we do for America. We work relentlessly within our 4 pillars of service, and we succeed. We're committed to making sure all veterans receive the benefits they deserve for the sacrifices they've made in service to America. We support and promote citizenship and integrity in America's future leaders. We know what policies, tools, and manpower our military needs to protect this great country. We fight to get these things done. We're patriots through and through. We promote and defend these values every day in communities across the nation. Go to Legion.org to find out more about the American Legion's commitment of service to America.
No harm and I was loving you. Make it shine, make it rain. Baby, I know my way.
Hi, we're back to the Total Education Hour. Again, I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. I'm with Dr. Shelley Hipsky and our bullying expert, Shannon Scheiderle. That's why, again, some hard pronunciations tonight, especially after a long day at school. But now I want to touch upon something that I think the only way things are going to happen if the parents are involved. Because if you have parents on both sides of the table that are going to back an anti-bullying program, it's going to work. So what can parents do to prevent bullying?
Barbara Coloroso wrote an excellent book called The Bully, the Bullied, and the Bystander. And in its information and effective strategies for both parents and teachers. But I found this book to have some excellent tips in there for parents. Parents need to pay particular attention to what's going on to their children. Barbara Coloroso suggests that parents be as active as possible in the daily lives of their kids. When my kids get off the bus, I ask them every day, who did you play with today? What did you do?
Yes, you have to do that.
Yeah, so be as active as possible, know their friends, be involved in their daily activities. But then there's also some warning signs for parents to look for, such as abrupt lack of interest in school, drop in their grades, do something that's out of character for them, physical injuries that are not consistent with the story that they're told, stomach aches, headaches, panic attacks. I also thought it was interesting, too. She pointed out in the book that, even simple things like, if a kid comes home from school and is just starving, okay, did someone take their lunch money that day? Did someone take their lunch?
Gosh, I totally have a story to go along with that. Okay. Another Dr. Shelley getting bullied moment. I had a little girl at school who I thought she was the coolest girl on the whole planet. And every day at lunch, she would take my little lunch bag and she would take the little Ziploc baggies and she would spit in it. So I was like, and she would spit in every part of my lunch. And then she would take it because she knew that once she had her germs all over it, I wasn't going to eat it. So I would go home starving every day. I would be like, oh, I'm so hungry. But I didn't want to tell my mom that I was getting bullied and that people were spitting in my food. It came to find out, though, through my mother saying, go back and talk to this girl. I'd say her name, but it's a very unusual name, and somebody out there might know it. So it came to find out that the mother wasn't able to take care of her, and not only was she not sending lunch, but she wasn't filling out the free and reduced lunch forms.
Okay.
So she was really in survivor mode. This kid really, and once that switch on mine as the being bullied happened, and I realized that this kid was hurting, and that's why she was bullying me, she was in survivor mode. It kind of flipped a switch for me, and I was able to continue the friendship, and my mom packed an extra lunch. So it was like I was almost able to see the other side of the story and why she was going through that. I think sometimes we need to not think of these bullying kids as bad kids, But maybe there's something going on in their own home lives that
Exactly.
are driving them towards that point.
Or other students.
Yes.
Other students are leading them to this, and or the culture, what's on television. I mean, it's terrible. Again, they're glorifying bullying. That wasn't happening 20 years ago. The bully was a bad guy. Now the bully's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. We used to think that the bully was somebody that, you know, had low self-esteem, or they're just bullying to make themselves feel better. But we know now from recent research that that's not necessarily true. That, you know, the bully is a popular person, or at least more popular than the victim. And although that popularity decreases as the bully gets older, the bully, it never appears to be as unpopular as the victim.
Well, and there's that whole power imbalance thing that really seems to happen. And so very often they are the popular kid.
Okay. And I think, Jerry, you have another question.
I do. We've talked a little bit about what the parents can do within preventing that. When teachers, let's say the parents have done their role, they're educating their children, they're on board with this program. When teachers see bullying happen, so in your situation, again, I have to believe that Dr. Shelley, that there was a teacher that saw that happen, or there was someone in that. I think there was someone in that lunchroom, an adult, that did know that was going on. How do we get those teachers to react? First recognize it and then react, but in a positive way.
Right.
If the teacher steps in as a bully themselves, is it very productive?
No. But teachers play a very critical role in protecting students. However, what we mentioned earlier is that teachers, bullying is not meant for adult consumption, that teachers don't see it normally because it's stealth, you know?
Right, exactly.
So therefore, the teachers are less likely to witness it. However, when they do, they need to intervene immediately, check on the victim to make sure the victim is okay. When they intervene, it needs to be consistent in every situation, every time. Check the victim to make sure that that the victim is okay. There has to be consequences for the behavior.
Yes.
What should those be? That's always like
So,
a question.
That was going to be my question. What consequences do we use?
I think that kind of depends on the grade level that you're dealing with. Things at an elementary school that might be effective would be things like sitting with the teacher at lunch, or you know, something along those lines, but that's not going to work at the high school, you know, so it kind of depends on the grade level.
Now, one of the bullying preventions we had is basically, first of all, the first time you're just going to get a slap on the wrist, you make sure you're written up, and if it continues, then you're going to get a lunch detention, then an after-school detention, because ultimately you have to have zero tolerance for bullying, and that's the thing. And I think more and more, the way I like what you're talking about, ending it. I was talking to another expert, didn't say we're going to end it. We can't. It's impossible. What is your thought on that one? I've been hearing people who are anti-bullying experts that say, we never can end this. It's impossible.
Well, you know, it just goes back to education. We need to educate people about bullying, and we need to educate them about what they see, like you know, to recognize it. And they need to know that they intervene consistently, and the research shows that, you know, when you intervene consistently, the bully gets the message and will eventually stop. There's a researcher out of Canada that found that by the second time a bystander intervenes with a bully, the behavior will stop. But the bystander's the one that has the most power in the situation to stop bullying. So we talk about educating teachers and parents, but again, bullying is not meant for adult consumption. It's not meant for adults to see, but the bystanders see it. So we need to raise up our students to intervene.
And Neil, if I may jump in here with the experts, and we've had them on the show, we've talked to them. My response to that is, you know, we have become a much more tolerant nation in the past 150 years. So there's historical research to show that when we educate, when our public, our citizens are educated, it does make a difference. I mean, we have an African-American president. 100 years ago, that wasn't even an option because of the bullying and the intolerance and the prejudice that went along with that. So my argument is just look at our history. We have changed significantly. We have a long way to go, but there has been change.
Now, I'm going to talk about this, and we only have about 3 minutes, so it's kind of really one to touch upon, but something to bring you back. we stop it in school, but the problem is that's not the problem. The problem is cell phones. The problem is Facebook. The problem is Twitter. The problem is all these social media out there that they can destroy people through bullying. How can schools stop that? And it has to be a short answer, but yet we can think about going into greater detail another time.
Well, schools really can't get involved in a bullying situation that happens online unless it's carried over into school.
Which
a lot of times it does.
Happen,
correct.
Yes.
Correct. But there are ways that you can stop cyberbullying. Perry Aftab, Stop Cyberbullying, suggests 3 things: stop, block, tell. Stop, get off the computer, shut it down, walk away from it. Block the bully's phone number or Facebook, coming in, and tell an adult. If things like that continue to happen on Facebook, Twitter, whatnot, the parents always have the option of going to the police, taking the printouts to the police of what's going on, informing their local police department.
And then that local thing that occurred on YouTube where a bully was beating up a kid. What area was that in? I forget. Enbridge, yeah. For people local. The fact is, if that didn't happen to YouTube, no one would have said anything. That's the problem. Bullying occurs, physical bullying, or even just verbal bullying. But again, I still don't think our society's doing the right thing yet. They're still thinking this will toughen you up. Well, I'm sorry. We have to end this. And I think that people like you, Shannon, we will end this. But the only way we can do that is finding more information on bullying. And I'm sure that you have some websites that you can tell us about that would be good places for our families listening to the show to learn more about stopping bullying.
Sure. I would say check out olveus.org, and let me spell that for you because it's not spelled anything like it's pronounced. It's OLWEUS, olveus.org. You'll find more information on there about the Olveus Bullying Prevention Program. Stop Bullying Now, www.stopbullyingnow.org is an excellent website that's sponsored by the government. There's tips on there for teachers and parents and students. And the bystanders, the witnesses to bullying, and then the Perry Aftab site, stopcyberbullying.org, is an excellent one as well. Age-specific information on that one.
Well, I'd love to have you back on again, Shannon, on my network, because again, this is something we have to stop, and we'll have to figure out and brainstorm ways of doing it to end bullying and to tell teachers and administrators you have to report this. And parents, be involved with your kids. That's the most important thing. So, Dr. Hipsky, where can we find more information on you?
You can either go to mentoringmagic.net or you can go to kmrmedia.com to find out about my next book, Ordinary People, Extraordinary Planet.
Absolutely. We'll learn more information. We'll talk about that another time, but always bringing such awesome people to the show. It's so great. And Jared, I just think we have to be out there talking about this, because the only way to stop this is to end this, because I'm sure there's so many parents listening right now that say to themselves, how can we stop this? It's impossible. And it happens in certain schools. It happens everywhere. And we have to figure out ways so that kids aren't committing suicide, the scars for life, all the hurtful things. And I guarantee if you did a poll, that's the only way we're going to end bullying. So I want to thank you guys for coming on the program.
Thank
and
you.
and definitely have us, and you're welcome back anytime. And Jarrett, again, our next guest is going to be Bradley Reese. You had an interesting discussion with him before from Sons of Liberty. You're listening to Till Education Hour.
I will not let him bully me this time.
We'll be back in just a moment.
Okay. I know you're not scared. You got me. Looking at the heaven in your eyes.
There comes a time in life when you need government information,
and you just don't know which way to turn.
USA.gov.
Find your Social Security benefits online.
USA.gov.
Our list of jobs will put you on cloud nine.
USA.gov.
Shop auctions for a used minivan anytime.
USA.gov.
It's government made easy
For the people. USA.gov.
Look, Mom, no skiing. No face.
Falls on TV can be entertaining. Falling at home can be devastating. Each year, 1 in 3 Americans over 65 falls in their own home, breaking bones and shattering lives. For older people, any broken bone can be serious. A broken hip, potentially lethal. To make your home as fall-safe and bone-friendly as it can be, visit orthoinfo.org/falls. A public service message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, where staying on your feet is doctor's orders.
I've lived in Delhi all my life and I have seen the weather change. The monsoon this year has been more erratic than I can ever remember. We've had, I think, highest temperature in the last 50 years. Growing up, you'd wait for what we call an andhi, a squall. This year, there's not a drop. Some estimates say 2017 Delhi, 15 million people are going to be without water.
Come over here. Let me take you on the dance floor.
Hi, we're welcome back to the Total Education Hour. Again, I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. 412-621-9728. What an exciting show so far with Dr. Shelley Hipsky and Shannon, our anti-bullying expert. And now I think my guests are on the line. Bradley, are you on the line?
I am here.
Hi, Bradley. Bradley, again, is the host on Blog Talk Radio, Sons of Liberty. And what time can that be heard?
I'm on Friday and Saturday evenings, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Again, I'm up at those late hours to listen to that. I'm going to look forward to it. And it's a 2-hour show, right? 2 or?
Yes.
2 hours.
Yes, 2
Awesome.
hours each night.
Awesome. And I don't know if my other guest is on the line as well. Is he, Bronx, are you there or not? I guess he's not yet. Okay. Let's go to this article. It's very interesting. It talks about, and it comes from the Huffington Post. I'm sure, Bradley, when you got this in the an email, you said, what, the Huffington Post? I never read that blog.
Oh, no, I read the Huffington Post all the time.
Do you read the Huffington Post, but do you enjoy it?
Yes, I do, actually.
Really? Interesting.
Yes, it's very, very entertaining seeing what kind of mental contortions these liberals can twist themselves into.
And Jarrett just walked back in the studio. You missed that point. But
I was locked out. I couldn't get back in, so I didn't hear that conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll not say anything. So it says, then the topic basically says, Nevada could soon join Tennessee in becoming the latest in a long line of states to pass laws that drastically alters the teaching profession. In Nevada, the changes passed the Senate earlier this week as a part of a rushed budget deal. And as of Thursday, await the approval by the House and signature by Republican Governor Brian Sandoval, both of which are expected. The proposal would override collective bargaining laws and make tenure more difficult to get. They would also allow officials to put tenured teachers back on probation and would end the practice of laying off teachers solely in reverse order of their seniority. Very, very interesting. What is your thought on this, Bradley?
Oh, man, well, my first thought is, it's great to see Nevada has a Republican governor who beat Rory Reid, even though Rory Reid's father was reelected to the Senate. That was just, beautiful last November. But it's good to see the Republican governor there and the Republican legislature as well pushing through these kind of, what does the article say there? Laws that will drastically alter the teaching profession. I'm not sure how much it alters the teaching profession, but it certainly alters the way our children are educated, and I can't wait to see 10, 15 years down the road how much better the state of education is in the state of Nevada.
Okay.
All because we eliminate collective bargaining. I don't see the connection there. I could accept the argument of tenure being changed, making it more difficult. But since when did experience become a bad thing? I mean, if I'm having an operation, I want an experienced doctor. I'm not going to take the attitude that, oh, he's been practicing for 20 years, he doesn't care. I'm going to take the attitude of, oh, they have a lot of knowledge that they've gained, a lot of practical working knowledge. So I don't see the connection between eliminating collective bargaining and improving teaching.
I don't see the connection in your analogy of doctors to teachers. It's a whole different ballgame.
Well, let me explain it to you then. It's called experience. The idea
Well,
is
I
that by
understand the experience argument.
by making the statement of you didn't understand it, I thought I would educate you and explain it to you.
Well, no, I understand the experience argument, to be sure, but, the doctors don't have this little thing called tenure that basically, I mean, hell, even
doctors
even
do have
Matt
tenure.
Groening of the Simpsons fame has lampooned tenure on his shows. I'm sure you've seen the Simpsons cartoon where the teacher is standing there in front of the class looking at her watch, and she tells the class, okay, as of right now, I have tenure, so Ralphie's going to teach the class.
Well, I
That
mean,
was a good one.
obviously, if it's on The Simpsons, then it must be true.
Well,
So
Matt
again,
Groening is a conservative nut.
I think
so,
that's what we call satire, and satire is a pretty powerful tool to use.
Yes, it is, and it's so funny because it has such an element of truth.
So Bradley, now addressing, I'll tell you what I like about this, and again, we're going to think more and more on this collective bargaining, but the fact of having it that the best teachers stay, I think that Jarrett's twisting this. Sorry, Jarrett. And that basically they're talking about when they lay off teachers, they're looking in reverse order based, and that's again the Huffington Post or Huffington Puffington Post, basically stating that the whole thing with teachers, okay, that they mean reverse order and seniority. They are going to pick the best teachers, Jarrett. It's not saying if this is again a spin by the Huffington Post. What's your thought on that, Bradley? And you got your response,
Right,
Jarrett.
sure.
Oh, absolutely, it's a spin from the Huffington Post, and that's what we can expect. AOL stock went through the floor when they bought out the Huffington Post. But anyway, I think it's I think it's definitely a spin from the Huffington Post because it's basically saying that the practice right now is laying off teachers solely in reverse order of their seniority, and all this law is doing is changing that. So the school system will be able to pick and choose who they lay off first, and they don't have to be bound by seniority and how long that teacher has been there. You've got teachers that have been there for 40 years, have tenure and everything else. I'm sorry, they don't care as much as a new, fresh teacher straight out of college that has entered the profession because they want to teach kids. So the school system is going to be able to look at the performance of the teachers in deciding who to lay off.
So, Jarrett, what's your response to that? Now?
Look, I mean, as a parent, I want my child to have the best teacher, and there's no question. I don't think if you asked anyone or polled or surveyed anyone, they would argue with that statement.
Except Bronx
I
teacher,
think,
but he's not called.
But again, I think both. I think everyone can agree you want the best teaching your children. The point that being, when Bradley makes these broad general statements of a teacher who's been there 40 years doesn't care. Well, I can tell you, as I taught school for 12 years. I can honestly tell you I was a far better teacher in my 12th year than I was in my first year. Was I more energetic in my first year? Absolutely, I was more energetic. But I did not have the knowledge, I did not have the experience, and I had a lot of wasted energy.
See, but Jarrett, that's true. You developed your ability in your craft. You kept improving. I think that you got to look at these teachers that say, I don't want to go back to school, even though they have all this money that the school district will pay for them to go on in education. But I don't want to do that. And you know what? Really, I don't want to continue to improve my craft, and I don't want to try different things. I'm just going to stick to what I'm doing now. And that's the problem. Or they stink. Because their tenure, they could stay on the job. What's your thought on that, Bradley? That's the problem right there. And that's, again, I love the Huffington Post, what they're doing, because, again, that's complete spin. If we would have read this article with some other people, ultimately, we wouldn't have addressed that point.
Well, again, I think it's kind of interesting that, aspersions are being cast on me for my broad generalizations, while
it was just
Garrett
a statement.
sets up a broad generalization that the longer the teacher has been there, the more experienced they are and the better teacher they are, which is, again, an overgeneralization. And, I made a broad generalization simply because this is only a half-hour interview here.
15, Bradley. I'm sorry about it. 15 today.
Well, there you go. There you go. Got it. So, generalizations are necessary to a certain extent. But, again, I don't think it can simply be said, the longer a teacher has been there, the better they are. And the opposite cannot be said to be true in all cases either.
And the reason, Bradley, I'm sorry that about the 15 minutes I shot you that email, but you filled in for somebody, again, we're going to have you on again because you're fantastic and you really let Jarrett have it. So that's a good thing. So, Jarrett, what's your response on this? I'm saying
which one?
So,
I mean,
which
of the many things that he has said? What do you want me to respond to?
So you're going to agree with the whole thing in education?
I think we can all agree that education needs to be improved. I mean, all you have to do is look at the fact that we've stated on this show that students that are in poverty, impoverished circumstances, are graduating and going on to college at an 8% level. Nobody can look at that statistic and say that that everything is okay. But again, I think it is just a misstatement to say this is because of unions and it's because of collective bargaining. That there are so many other factors. Let's even just consider the fact that you need to educate students or teachers better. Teachers have to have a better understanding of what the child dynamics and the child's developmental goals and even the developmental knowledge are.
So, Bradley, you got about a minute and a half. Jarrett's completely agreeing with you, but he doesn't want to admit it. So give me a minute and a half and say that he's completely agreed with you with what we've been talking about.
Well, pretty much. But, I think he brings up a good point. Teachers need to be better educated, but then who teaches the teachers? Who watches the watchmen? It's the same kind of thing. You need to improve the education of the teachers, but then you need to improve the education of the teachers who are teaching the teachers, and then the teachers who are teaching the teachers that teach the teachers. So,
so it makes perfect
systemic
sense.
problem, which is what we've been kind of going around about all along anyway. And I think we all agree that it's a systemic problem. It's not one simple thing. There is no poison pill. There is no magic bullet that's going to fix everything. There is no panacea, no matter how much people like to say there is. But, I find it interesting as well, this whole collective bargaining argument. I'm coming from the standpoint of someone who works in a union shop. I am a member of a private sector union. But when it comes to public sector unions and teacher unions, and I love the fact that the Tennessee Education Association acronym is TEA, which is also the acronym for the Tea Party. But I think that's just a delicious bit of irony. But, I think when it comes to public sector unions, government unions, you have to draw a line there because it's a whole lot different. Workers sitting across the table from the management of a corporation bargaining for their pay and benefits. It's a whole different ballgame when you have teachers and government employees sitting across the table from elected officials bargaining with basically the taxpayers' money, and the taxpayers don't have a representative at the table because the unions are the ones that are paying the campaign, making the campaign contributions to those elected officials. So in that sense, around that table, those representatives of the people aren't really representing the people.
As opposed to the number of corporations that also have big money that they can contribute to the candidates.
So we're running out of time, Bradley, but again, I'm so glad, and then also your network, bringing different awesome guests onto the show that Jarrett just loves. Where can we find more information on you?
Oh, absolutely. You can find us 7 days a week, blogtalkradio.com/cbmedia-network. I don't think I put the hyphen in there last time I was on, but we're on 7 days a week, generally from 6 p.m. to midnight. We're actually bringing back the 6 p.m. Eastern time slot within the next couple of weeks. So we're rolling, trying to bring on new hosts as well and bring more hard-hitting conservatism to hit you in the face with.
Is there any other kind of conservatism?
So he said the same thing. He
said
said the same thing last time. But Bradley, again, you're going to be re-airing the show tonight too, right? Our little segment.
Actually, I'll be re-airing this segment tomorrow night on Sons of Liberty show when I have a little bit more time to expand on the mental contortions that Jarrett and his liberal ilk like to.
Jarrett needs to call tomorrow. That's what Jarrett needs to call tomorrow, and I will try to listen as well. All right, guys. Well, again, you're listening to Total Education Hour. Thanks for calling, Bradley, and we'll talk soon. And we're going to be back in just a moment with a really interesting guest, Margaret Bream.
Looking at the heaven in your eyes.
He passed away last year. It was hard at first when I found out how sick he was. The doctor suggested hospice care at home. Hospice helped so much. He came home, and that was wonderful. They helped me take care of him. They made his last months comfortable. pain-free. We were able to find some joy till the very end.
What do we have here?
You take Medicare, don't you?
Sure.
And you probably have a lot of patients who are ready to go on Medicare, yes?
Yes.
You know, you could tell them that if they're 65, they can go to socialsecurity.gov and apply for Medicare online. It takes less time than sitting in a doctor's office. It's less than 10 minutes. It's quite easy.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
This is great. Every day should be like this.
It will be when I retire in a few years. I've been planning and saving. Did you save for me?
Well, this is unexpected.
Where'd you come from? Out of the blue, just like an illness, an emergency, or
That's enough, Mr. Unexpected.
Savings Man.
There's still time to plan. Find out how at choosetosave.org with a ballpark estimate worksheet.
I will. Thanks, Savings Man.
No, thank you.
So visit choosetosave.org today.
In your direction, I was telling you no lies, and I was loving you when the word you said.
We're back to the Total Education Hour. Please go to my website at totaltutor.org to learn more information about the Total Education Network. We keep growing, Jared. An announcement to make soon, I guess 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks, not this Tuesday, the following Tuesday, will be on 1080 WWNL. We're going to do a show that's all about helping families. It's still going to be a talk shop for teachers, parents, administrators, but really in the view of helping the parents out with with providing great suggestions, kind of like what we used to do on Wednesday nights on one of my shows. But I'm looking forward to
that was one of my favorite segments that we did too. I really enjoyed that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And again, it'll be 2:30 and then be re-aired at I think at 5:30 on Saturdays in Pittsburgh.
Fantastic.
So we'll be on twice. Okay. And now I want to welcome my guest, and guess what? You're going to be on this show at one point in time as well, because Margaret Bream, how are you?
I'm great, Neil. How are you?
Very good. Margaret calls my Thursday night show on the Total Education Network, and we just have we're parent experts calling. But I found a topic that I think really, I'm sure you, with the large family that you have, you're seeing this change, and it's interesting. It came again from CNN.com. It says, do schools share too much with parents? I post all my students' responsibilities, their current and upcoming assignments, timelines for every project they have, says teacher at Flagstaff Academy in Longmont, Colorado. I also post messages detailing the status of homework, whether it's missing, late, or incomplete. Ray refers to herself as her school's biggest technology adopter and recently won, and this is Ree, I'm sorry, a statewide award for her efforts, even though we know we found out what happened to her. Unlike many teachers across the country who use school-funded technology to help middle school and high school students track their own work online, Ree uses it to target parents. Her students are in 3rd grade. Anything we could do to engage parents we need to do. Kids do better in school when mom and dad are involved. Ree also has a website highlighting her daily classroom schedule, invites parents to subscribe to her Twitter feed so they can follow her activities in and out of the classroom. Is this too much, Margaret? I'm shocked.
It's way too much. Just think about a decade ago or 2 decades ago, and the school sending home all those papers and how overwhelmed parents are. And now, not only are they getting papers, or sometimes they're not getting papers, but they're getting online technology, and it looks like this particular teacher hits them from all directions online. It's way too much. It's way too overwhelming, even for a parent who has just one child.
So is she a Bill Gates advocate, or is she Michelle Rhee? I was thinking Rhee for just the reason, because, again, I find these topics for my experts, and I let them do all the research, and I ask the hard-hitting questions. So, Jared, what's your thought?
Well, I completely agree. I can't even imagine something more tedious and boring than following my teacher on the Twitter page. And quite honestly, when I was a teacher, the last thing I would have wanted my students to know what I was doing when I wasn't in school. So I think it's totally overblown. But I'd like to hear more of what our guest has to say regarding that.
Well, first of all, this hits off a series of situations. One of them that comes to my mind is they're leaving low-income families behind. Mm-hmm. And in public schools especially, low-income families are part of the clientele. But you can't assume that every low-income family has a computer or Internet access. And many teachers these days only communicate with their families through the Internet. And so they're leaving their low-income families behind, and I think that that's a great injustice.
That's a great point, Margaret. And then also, when I think this is, how can this be allowed? This is ridiculous. I mean, we're reading this article more and more. I'm saying, wow. I mean, this would be like me just saying, okay, kids, follow me on Twitter right now so you can see that I'm on the show right now, and make sure that on my teacher page, you can follow me on Twitter to find out what's going on with Neil Haley, the Total Tutor.
Right, and if they thought you were boring before, all they have to do is really follow you outside of the classroom to see how boring you really are.
So, what would happen if if your children were in the school with this teacher? How would you feel them posting how she posts all this stuff?
Well, if you're asking me, it's actually illegal for teachers to post information about foster care kids on any Internet site. So I actually do send in a note every year that my kids, even the ones that are adopted, fully adopted now, that they are not allowed to share any information about my children on the Internet. And our particular school district also has its own TV station, and I have been told at times that if I don't sign permission slips for my kids to be on the TV station, that they're not going to be able to participate in their required classroom activities, which is also a legal violation. So I have addressed this issue several times in my own school district, and they have learned to include my children without putting them out in the media. And it's been a little bit of a struggle, but in our state it's actually a credentialing issue, and the school districts aren't following the law about these situations.
Now, Margaret, this is Jared, one of the co-hosts of the show. Do you see this? Could this be considered almost passing off some of the responsibility that a teacher has in their classroom to make sure the work is getting completed? Could we see this as almost, look, I told you that your son or your daughter had not completed this assignment. Why didn't you do something about it at home? Could we see that as a way of the teacher even lessening their responsibility?
I would think so. I also would think that this is almost a form of sociopathic behavior.
Go on a little bit more about that. I'm interested.
Maybe I need to call her and interview her and bring her on this show. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, people who are sociopathic want all kinds of attention. And so if this person's all over the Internet putting out information about her classroom, is it really about her students performing well, or is it about her need for attention?
Very interesting point, but I think we'll have to really make a phone call. Again, Bronx messed me over today. He was supposed to come on the show, but I booked another one of the guests that he doesn't like that he's going to call, so it'll be interesting. Okay, so Margaret, now I thought when I saw this topic, because I'm going on my BlackBerry, I spot something. This is perfect for Margaret Bream. Now I see it's more ridiculous, but you restated, but I think it's ridiculous the fact that all we do now is online communication with the computer grades and stuff, meaning like all of the report card is posted online. All you have to do is go online now. You just check your son's assignments. They don't have to write them down anymore. What happened to personal responsibility? What happened to the fact of a teacher calling when a kid is failing? Now all your progress reports, no, we don't send them home anymore. You go to the Internet. And a lot of these online programs are crap. So, so why are we doing this?
It's actually an attempt to control communication and to limit communication for time management's sake. And the fact of the matter is communication is two ways, and the people involved in designing these programs and in utilizing these programs are trying to make communication a one-way form, more like a memo as opposed to a communication. And it's basically about violating the village that needs to be formed to raise a child. This breaks down the village. It doesn't build the village. It also breaks down any ability to work together in the long term, in the big picture, to help a child and to meet the child's needs, because it's about limiting access as opposed to creating collaboration.
Right, and I see this as just almost a tremendous waste of time.
Yes.
I would almost, as a parent and a former teacher, I have a child who's entering kindergarten next year. I'd hate to think that my son's teacher is wasting this much time on technology and not actually preparing valuable lesson plans and learning opportunities. I see this just taking time out of the classroom day.
It really devalues the classroom day by quite a bit. It does take away from the students. The teacher is spending all her time in the wrong direction.
Right.
Instead of planning enriched activities to help the children learn and grow, and developing programs to help the kids that need to catch up and to keep the kids stimulated who are higher level thinkers. She's spending her time on the internet, and it's a huge waste of time.
Right.
Yes, I completely agree. Now, the only way I think we can stop this insanity is that we have to go back to communication, written communication, not going online. I think these, again, I still don't understand. It takes so much time. If you're going to create technology districts and the Diocese of Pittsburgh, what you need to do is purchase a program that really runs well. I mean, come on now. It takes like 15 minutes sometimes to check people's grades. And why are we eliminating kids to write down homework assignments? Oh, it's posted on the internet now. No. And I forgot to post it. It was 9 o'clock, but I posted something. What? Children should have the responsibility to write it down. So 1 minute, Margaret, don't you agree that now that students should have to write down all their assignments? Things shouldn't be handed to them like that.
Right. Well, they should be, not only should they be writing them down, they should be responsible for completing them and bringing them in. And there's other ways to handle this situation rather than posting on the internet. But I think what it comes down to is clearly marketing and salesmanship.
Right.
You know, the teachers have bought into all these programs and all these technologies, and it's almost like running a spaceship now to be in a classroom. There's a lot of studies showing that a lot of the technologies that the schools spend tons and tons of money on don't enhance education at all. They're a little bit more entertaining, so a few kids might pay more attention. But as far as them enhancing education and especially helping children who are special needs, a majority of them do not do that at all. So it's a big waste of money. I was kind of, a few months ago, heard Bill Gates talk about his studies in education. And one of the quotes that he said, and this is not a direct quote, but it's the context of it, that the misuse of funds in education are so blatant that even the executives of Enron wouldn't have attempted it.
Oh, geez, that's a great point. Well, Margaret, we almost about 30 seconds. Where can we find more information on you, your website, and the book you've written?
Okay, my book's called The Parent Plan, A Guide to Intentional Parenting, and it's available on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. And my website is theparentplan.com, or I have another website, LiveTheLifeYouLove.com, and that's all spelled out.
All right, well, thanks for calling the program, and I'll love to have you back on again, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you, Neil.
All right, that was Margaret Bremen. Jarrett, again, the excitement builds for our first ever taping of the Total Education Show on WWNL. I just cannot wait. It's going to be exciting, and really looking forward to some great education talk. What do you want to say before we're running out of time?
Well, I'm excited. We're going to be giving a lot of great advice. We're going to be soliciting input from those parents that have called the show in the past, those teachers that have called the show in the past. This is going to be a great station for us to be on and sharing our knowledge and really, again, being a part of the community.
All right. Well, you've listened to the Total Education Show. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks, Margaret, for calling. Thanks, Shelley Hipsky and Shannon for being on the show. And thank you, Bradley Reese. I hope everyone has a great evening, and I'll talk to you next Friday at 7. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Mr. Johnson, it's time to start saving.
This savings wake-up call is brought to you by your friends at Choose to Save.